Let's see. Sarah Price, you want to introduce yourself?
Pete Purser. Hi, I'm Sarah Purser. I am from Arizona Animal Welfare League up in Phoenix. I'm the outreach coordinator. Like I said, like my fourth one maybe, and I do some of the other ones too. So,
Sarah, how long have you been with your organization?
just over a year. December was a year.
Congratulations, happy anniversary. And what were you doing prior to that?
I was actually working at a different rescue.
Oh,
I've been
cool.
in animal rescue since like 2017. So.
Amazing. And so as we've been shifting sort of to this community-centric model and honoring the human-animal bond, what gets you the most excited about the changes that you've been seeing in animal welfare?
Building and like making people understand how important that human-animal bond is. That's kind of a big focus for me and what we're kind of doing here at Arizona Animal Welfare League. So I'm excited.
Well, we're honored that you're a part of this community. And so folks, it is 8:01 Pacific Standard Time where I am. I know there's still so many folks that are going to be joining the call for the next couple minutes, but good morning. My name is Bobby Mann. I'm the Maddie's Human Animal Support Services Pilot Director. So honored to be here with the Maddie's team, Mary Smith, and our extra special co-host, Javier Gutierrez from LA County. Welcome, Javier.
Hello, how's everybody doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing well, and I'm super excited to be here with you. I know I want to ask you a little bit about how you got into animal welfare as we get this kicked off, but I know you're also going to be helping us out with the question of the day. So I'm going to toss it over to you for that.
Okay. Well, I started this department back in '98, or I got into this industry in '98. My uncle was in animal control and my brother was in animal control, and I just kind of stumbled into it. But it's been fun. I really enjoy the job, what we do, helping the community, the animals. So,
amazing.
Yeah, it's been good. I like it, love it.
And Javier, do you have a question for the group to kick off the meeting? A question of the day?
I do have a question. With the Olympics coming up, what sport would you compete in if you were in the Olympics?
That's a good one. And we're talking Winter Olympics, right? We're not going to get to jump to summer.
I would say any, winter or summer.
Well, I'm going to just go ahead and toss mine out there right now. I'm a big fan of the movie Cool Runnings, and so I would want to be a part of the Jamaican bobsled team. That is what I would want to do. Anyone else want to unmute? We'd love to hear from you. And I know y'all keep using the chat, and Javier will call on some folks from the chat as well.
I'm just going to say it, curling, because of the outfits. They always try to outdo each other. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yes, we can be on the same team. I love watching curling.
The yelling that they do, hey, hey, hey.
We got tennis, figure skating, snowboarding.
Figure skating, that's fun. I like watching the figure skating.
Aguilar, have you been to this curling place in Austin?
No, I keep seeing the ads for it though. Maybe on your next visit, Bobby.
It's got to be some like hipster curling place if it's in Austin, though. It's like a microbrewery, curling sort of nonsense.
Right. They make vodka there out of like straight. They grow the potatoes and everything.
Yes, that sounds absolutely right.
Okay,
Axe
guys.
throwing?
So Canadians love curling, although I've never actually done it, but it definitely involves drinking.
Because I think
y'all got to come to Canada to go curling.
Well, whatever is in your cup, alcohol or not, yes. And because I think I really like sports where you only need one hand to do it, right? That's always fun. All right, Javier.
Kim put a beach volleyball. Do you play, Kim? Or you just like hanging on the beach?
I play for fun and hanging on the beach. So yeah, no, I wouldn't win, but I'd have fun.
Kim, are they introducing beach volleyball in the Winter Olympics? Because I think that would really take the Winter Olympics up a notch.
Ooh, I think that's a great idea. We should recommend that.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like if
yes, I.
Oh, what? I don't want my being accent there. I would say that if the Winter Olympics were hosted in like Los Angeles, you can absolutely have volleyball in the winter, right, Javier?
Yes, definitely.
Good
Be a
stuff.
bit cold in the other places.
Well, this has been great, Javier. Thank you so much for getting this kicked off. And I'm so excited that you're going to be here with us. Unfortunately, one of our speakers is not going to be able to be here today. Riley is out sick, but that's okay because she's going to be rescheduled to be hanging out with us again in a couple of weeks. But we're going to have a really great conversation today about managed intake. We have Dr. Sarah Pisano here that's really going to be helping us unpack a really dynamic conversation, not just about the work that we're doing, but partnering with rescue groups and how we can make sure that we're moving forward together. But before we get into that, Javier, you're going to get us kicked into our next spot, right?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Mary Smith. She's going to get us going with Mary's Monday motivational words. So go ahead, Mary.
Thanks, Javier. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks to Allison, everyone that's here today. So a couple things. Remember, you guys, that we're doing grant giveaway on this call, $5,000 a month. If you want to be eligible for that, you need to register. And I'm sure that someone from the grants team will put the information in the chat file. Thank you very much. Also, last week we did a candid conversation with CARE's very own James Evan and Jennifer Evans. We'd really encourage you to watch it. They're just kind of an amazing partnership, and the work that they're doing at CARE is really, I think, some of the greatest work that we can do in animal welfare today. Also, they're doing a webcast on amended American history. That is the title of it, and it's scheduled for February 17th. I'm sure Allison will put the link in the chat file, which she just did, which is really great. So, and also don't forget to sign up for My Dog Is My Home conference. It's March 1st to the 3rd. It is a virtual conference. You can do it from the comfort of your home or office. And they really tackle the issues of co-housing for pets and people. And it really is just, it was one of the best conferences that I went to last year. I would encourage you all to check it out. So here we are in almost the end of our 23rd month of COVID. And one of my favorite blogs is Nonprofit as Fuck. And it's our very own Boulay who writes it. And today he gave some really great tips about Zoom calls. So for all of you that are Zooming us from your home, I hope you still have your pajamas on. I hope you still have your fuzzy slippers on. And if you're in the office, try to do something that will make you feel a little more like you're still at home and a little less stressed. Also, everyone should be allowed to eat food no matter what the meeting is. Eat food, drink, whatever you need to do. Hydration is really important, so make sure you do that. Bobby, this one's for you. All our meetings should be 50 minutes. Just saying, we might have to think about that. Also, when you have informal meetings and you're working from home, please don't feel embarrassed about taking the meeting from your bed. If it's informal, people will understand. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. All right. Don't judge everybody's clothing, whether you can see it or not. Don't judge people's rooms for being messy, whether they have a background camera on or not. We are who we are. And I think being Zoomified for the past 2 years has really warped us. We'll probably only be able to recognize each other in these little square boxes. But the other thing to remember, if you have a cat or dog, which we all do, make sure your cat or dog appears in your Zoom calls at least once a day. Don't ever apologize for that. I can't tell you the number of non-animal welfare people that we meet with who immediately apologize for their dogs barking or some other kind of interaction that only our animals can do at the most inopportune times. And we just laugh and think it's just normal business as usual. We need to spread that. And I think the other thing to remember is, even if we're only interacting with each other through these little thumbnail sketches, we always should use this as an opportunity to be as kind and compassionate and caring for each other as we possibly can. The world as we know it has changed irreparably. And as we move forward, we're still not sure what the future is going to be like, but when we could do it together, it makes it far less scary and a lot more exciting. With that, I'm out. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Javier.
Okay. Sweatpants, check. Fuzzy shoes, check. Hydration, check. 50-minute meeting, challenge accepted, Mary Smith. We are going to get out of here 10 minutes early today. I love it. Okay, so we can get out on time, I'm going to keep this thing moving along. National updates are going to be coming in just a second. So national organizations, get yourself ready to unmute. But before that, we're going to have a big and special announcement from the Petco Love team. So I'm going to mute and let the team from Petco Love show what they're working on.
Awesome. Thanks, Bobby. So I'm having network problems. So you're going to see my two cute dogs versus my face. So let me share my screen real quick. All right. Let me open this up. Okay, so a lot of you have already participating in our national pet vaccination campaign, but I just wanted to bring in some information to everybody. So let's get into the details. So last August, we made the commitment of donating 1 million free pet vaccines to help reduce the spread of vaccine preventable diseases. So everybody knows what we're talking about, parvo, distemper, Penluke, right? So now in partnership with Bissell Pet Foundation, we're going to ramp things up and we're designating March as National Pet Vaccination Month. But this is where we need everybody's help. This is where we need everybody to help participate. So we would like to invite everyone to join our national efforts to raise awareness of the importance of vaccination, and then to also make these free vaccines accessible to family pets in your communities throughout the month of March. So this is just kind of like showing you to date where our progress is at. So what you're looking at on the map is roughly around 300 organizations. And together we have distributed almost 367,000 vaccines. Sorry, not 367, 367,000 vaccines, right? That's a lot, that's awesome. So off to the left are your top 5 states and the top 5 organizations that have been requesting the most vaccines to then distribute into their community. So here are the details. So how can you participate? We're asking organizations to register to host vaccine clinics during National Pet Vaccination Month in March. The registration link is at the bottom, but I'm going to throw all of this information to the chat, so don't worry about trying to write everything down. I'll give it all to you. So we do prefer event style clinics, but we understand that some organizations may only have the capacity to administer vaccines within daily operations. So we understand, we recognize that. But if your organization is truly unable to administer these vaccines, we absolutely encourage you to still use our campaign toolkit and participate by bringing awareness to the importance of this campaign. So every campaign we create a toolkit, there's social media assets in there, PR, all kinds of things for you to use. So who receives these vaccines? For this campaign, vaccines must be administered to family pets. Shelter and foster pets are not eligible for this initiative. And the vaccines we're offering are your basic distemper, parvo, Penluke, so DAPPV and HCP. And then the order quantities, what we have right now is the minimum order is 300 total vaccines, and the maximum order is 1,000 vaccines. So you're not required to order on a weekly basis. We have some organizations that need them weekly, every other week, once a month type of thing. It's whatever you need for your community. We just ask that if you're participating, that your orders are starting at 300 total vaccines. And then along with the free vaccines, your organization will also receive a $3 stipend for administered vaccines. So once your application is approved, we do attach a follow-up report to that. That's how you provide us the information, and then that's how we then pay out your stipend. And then can my organization begin offering free vaccines before March? Yes, you can. We do want to emphasize March as being National Pet Vaccination Month. We want to make a big splash, bring a lot of awareness, get everybody participating, right? March is our focus. But your organization can always apply and begin administering free vaccines at any time. That application is live on our partner portal. And if you don't know what our partner portal is, I'm going to give you the link to that too, so don't worry. So these are the next steps in order to participate. So we do ask you register for National Pet Vaccination Month. That's not the application. That's just letting us know my organization's committed to this. We want to participate. We ask a couple questions on that registration form. And then after you register, you will get a follow-up email letting you know what other next steps your specific organization needs. These are just kind of general next steps. So register. If you're new, get on that partner portal. I'll provide you information on that. And then very important is attending our National Pet Vaccination webinar that's coming up on February 2nd. We'll give you that registration link as well, but we're going to go over the toolkit. We're going to go over some information there. And now if you have any questions, a lot of these questions that we've been receiving are very specific to organizations. So we'd like to give you the best answer we possibly can. So I highly suggest emailing us at partners@petcolove.org. Our team is constantly checking that inbox, so we will get to your answer. I'm going to check the chat after I'm done and see what questions I can answer. But if I don't get to it, please email us and we will respond to you. So I'll throw everything in the chat and thank you for your time. We're going to get out 10 minutes early, right?
I love it. Thanks, Roxanne. We do actually have a couple minutes if anybody does have a question for Petco. And also I'd like to throw out, is anybody on this call already participating in this? Has anybody gotten their vaccines or submitted for vaccines? Anyone? You're welcome to use the chat as well.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Lindsay, we can.
Hey, yeah, I'm with Paul's at Rutherford County in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, near Nashville. Everyone knows about Nashville. We have done the Petco vaccinations, and it's just kind of hit or miss for us. We feel like we've really pushed and advertised and got everything in. So if anyone has any tips on how to get more people to take advantage of it, we appreciate any input.
Thanks, Lindsay. We're actually going to be having a few organizations coming in the next few weeks to talk about drive-through vaccine clinics and community vaccine clinics that I think could be some helpful tips. I also saw a great question from Gwen about human vaccine clinics and animal vaccine clinics. I saw Shelly mention Front Street Animal Shelter has been doing this. And I know Donna, y'all are even a testing site for COVID, right? At your organization. I'd love for you to unmute and chime in.
Yes, we are, but we're not a community testing site. We're only a testing site for our employees. We were struggling with getting, we've had a lot, like I'm sure all of you, we've had a lot of people out with COVID in the last several weeks, but through one of our local chambers of commerce, they offered a program where we could sign up, get people registered to do the testing on site, and we could test our own employees. And so we picked up testing kits, and we've been testing pretty much every day, trying to clear people to get them back to work, and it's going well.
Thanks, Donna. Sharon, would you mind unmuting and mentioning what you put in the chat for folks that are calling in? I think it's a really important comment.
Two areas, and Mary mentioned, partnering with other groups. So definitely partnering with your, local churches, the community service groups for their audiences. They would love to probably participate and do this as together, but also let your media know. Just the simple, if you're only using social media, you're already talking to the people who already know you. So challenge those folks to tell two friends or tell somebody who's not following. But definitely get it out there and talk to your media. The radio stations, they are always looking for great stuff to help share in the community and get them involved, as well as the TV.
Thanks. I want to come over to Josh because I saw him unmute for a second. But speaking of telling a friend, folks, we have 170 people participating on this call. And the goal of these calls is really to build community. So if you are enjoying these calls, there's two things that you could do. One, make sure that you share this link with somebody else that could benefit from being here. Two, make sure that you always continue the conversation at Maddie's Pet Forum, because we want to make sure all these questions are answered and we can keep the engagement going. So over to you, Josh. I saw you unmute for a sec.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Petco. Like it's amazing that we can get free vaccines to vaccinate on there. I know Des Moines community is just infinitely better for it. So just thank you, Petco, for the free vaccines.
Talk about sharing the love. All right, last question. So I think I saw one about Indigenous communities. Roxanne, would you mind touching on that for all the folks on the call?
I'm actually going to throw it over to Marianne because she's been in communication with that organization. Marianne, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call, and we are working to get vaccines everywhere we can. Many of our Indigenous communities are 501c3s, or they're registered in other ways as nonprofits, and we're going to work to get those out to all of them. And we are working with that partnership with Native Americans. We're working on a partnership with them and they're nationwide. So I think, and the other part is many of our partners have these relationships also. So we're trying to be real flexible and working with everyone to get them wherever they're needed the most. I mean, honestly, that's the bottom line. But if you have a particular question about one particular situation, please email us, because we've found that there's a lot of interesting sort of questions out there that we're not able to really address on a global basis.
Thanks, Marianne. Would you mind telling folks what you do and who you're with, just for folks that are calling in?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm with Petco Love. I've been on a few of these calls, but always in the background, and I'm not feeling very well today. But I do grants administration for Petco Love. Been with Petco Love for 18 years, way before when it was Petco Foundation, back when we were 3 people, right from the very start. So long time coming, but we're really doing our best to get these vaccines out to every organization that can make it work and really have the resources. And we encourage you also, if the veterinarian is the issue, because many states have different requirements, to really partner with your state veterinary association. There's a lot of vets out there that don't mind volunteering. So this is the time to pull on all those resources to see if you've got a vet school near you. You can get vet techs. There's lots of opportunity out there. We've had a lot of organizations really get innovative in finding ways to make it work.
Thanks so much, Marianne.
Sure.
All right, well, let's keep it going, folks. We're going to open the floor for national updates before Javier introduces our main speaker. So I'm going to mute, and feel free to speak up.
Hi, everybody. I didn't want to forget to mention that on Million Cat Challenge Facebook page tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, we have a giant announcement. It's really exciting and really huge. So put it on your calendar. It's going to be really quick, and we hope you can join us for our big announcement.
Thanks, Dr. P.
Hey, everybody. Kathy from Canada here. I haven't made it to the Monday calls much, but just want to remind you that Humane Canada's 2022 Summit for Animals is coming up in May of this year, and it will be a hybrid event. So in person for 2 days in Banff, Alberta, as well as online. Thanks, Allison, for putting the stuff in the chat. Just to let you know, the registration opened 2 weeks ago today, and overall, we're already more than 75% booked. But the in-person stuff is about 90% booked. So get in there, and we have early bird registration fees until the 4th of February, which means for you folks in the US, it's less expensive. See you there.
Thanks, Kathy. I'm going to pick on Shannon Glenn from the chat from My Pitbull is Family, because this is such a cool opportunity, and I would love for you to unmute and share for folks that are calling in.
Hello, Bobby. I feel like you always pick on me when I put something in the chat, but I appreciate it. My name is Shannon Glenn. I'm the executive director of My Pitbull is Family, definitely taking advantage of the pajamas and slippers today. It's really cold in Minneapolis. So My Pitbull is Family, we have our partnership program where we send out partner packs with all of our materials to your shelters and rescues across the country. So we want to send out 1,000 partner packs this year to new organizations so that you can start having conversations about pet inclusive and dog inclusive housing and rentals in your area. So you can fill out the form, and I'll be sending out those packets in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, and that's why I pick on you, because you're so good on camera.
Thanks, Bobby.
All right, anyone else?
Yeah, so this weekend is the 5th annual online cat conference with Community Cats Podcast. Registration is $75, and it's an entire weekend of sessions. I'm going to drop the link to the website and our schedule into the chat here in a minute. But yeah, we'd love to have everyone there. Please share it with all the cat people you know in your life who would enjoy a weekend of sessions with some really, really great speakers.
Thanks, Brianna. All right, well, I know we're going to keep it moving, but one thing I wanted to do before handing it over to Javier to introduce our main speaker was Man, what a weekend of football for the folks that do watch football. And I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Teresa Johnson and the team at KC Pet Project. Their Kansas City Chiefs pulled off a great win last night. And the reason why I'm congratulating her is because when we talk about partnerships, as Mary mentioned in the chat, KC Pet Project is really one of the leaders and innovators in having unique partnerships. So Teresa, would you mind sharing one of the partnerships that you have with the Chiefs?
Sure. We have one of the players, Derek Noddy, on the team who sponsors adoption fees for dogs in our shelter when the Chiefs win. And so we've been very fortunate that he has sponsored a lot of adoption fees so far this year. We were a little concerned about whether we were going to be able to post the last naughty dog last night, and we're able to pull off that win. And so, yes, that has been one of the great partnerships that we had. We also had, Kansas City has a women's soccer league, a national soccer league here in Kansas City. And just last week, the Kansas City current soccer players were all here. And so we've had partnerships with the Kansas City Royals and just all the different teams. And so we're really fortunate. But the Kansas City Chiefs and Derek Noddy, this is going to be great. So we'll see. The year we went to the Super Bowl, he sponsors all the adoption fees for all the dogs in the shelter. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that might happen again this year.
Amazing, folks. And just a clarification, when she says posting naughty dogs, she doesn't mean bad dogs. She means Derek Noddy is an NFL player that sponsors dogs. And so Teresa,
yes,
for folks that are on this call that are like, there's no way I would be able to partner with a professional team, or how do I even start? Like, how did that work for all of you? Did you just make the ask?
He actually is very shelter dog friendly. He has 2 pit bull type dogs of his own and really wanted to make a difference in the community. And so certainly a lot of athletes like to do things for their community. And he really thought about, what he wanted to do. And he really cares about dogs. And so it was really great. Like, his people, contacted Tori Fugate. And anyway, we were able to make it work. And we've done a lot of things with him and his team, and they are just great people to work with, and really, really fortunate that we have that great relationship with him.
Amazing. Yeah.
Shares our posts and is great. Anytime we post anything, then he's on Instagram and his different platforms sharing things about dogs.
Love it. Thank you for helping spread the word. And as Sarah said, love seeing partnerships outside of animal welfare. So I guess the thought is, folks, just make the ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So blow up folks on their DMs on social media and just see what happens. Thanks, Teresa. All right, Javier, over to you to introduce our amazing speaker for the day.
Sure. The idea of managed intake remains a misunderstood and therefore a controversial issue in some communities. This has furthered the divide between shelters and rescue groups who feel unfairly overburdened by a shelter that does not accept a particular pet or category of pets. Join us today is Dr. Sarah Pisano from Team Shelter USA, who's going to help us with this issue, this topic. Dr. Pisano?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I have permission here and start. So I will do my best to honor this goal of finishing early. So we're going to fly through this. But as some of you know and have experienced, boy, is there a lot of misunderstandings about what we mean when we say coordinated intake, managed admissions. We love to have so many different names for different programs in animal welfare. So I wanted to just start off with those that don't know me. I do assessments. I've been so far in 22 states, all over the country. And what I found remarkable was wherever I went, rural, urban, small, big, I could be talking to the mayor in Dallas, Texas, or the mayor in McCreary County, Kentucky, population 15,000, and we're all facing the same challenges. But the beauty of the story is that the solutions are the same. Our challenges may be to varying degrees, but we all face the same challenges. And that's really important as I do my work. When I looked at just 18 of those shelters, if you've heard me speak, you've heard me speak of these. I just looked at, hey, wonder what happened the first year. So the first year after the assessment, there were 47,000 less euthanasias compared to the year before. And I've never been a funder. So that just tells us that it's about strategy. And it's nothing new. So these are the core recommendations that we teach and preach. The Association of Shelter Guidelines, of course, Million Cat Challenge initiatives, and all of the strategies that HOS supports and teaches and preaches with respect to involving the community and getting animals out of the shelter quickly. And with all of those lessons, I put together the playbook, which is, again, I didn't make it up. It's nothing new. It's just a short, like, hey, let's think about this system differently. And Allison will put that in the chat for you all. But here was my recent wake-up call, because I was speaking at an online conference recently, and my audience was mostly rescue partners. And I used some of my slides that I feel just warm my heart. As an open admission shelter girl, I want to see intake decrease. I want to see euthanasia decrease. So if you look at these bar charts, green is live outcome and blue is euthanasia. So this is what we want to see. We want to see decreasing intake. Of course, we want to see decreasing euthanasia. So wow, isn't this amazing? Live outcome went up and intake and euthanasia went down. Outcome for pets. This is the combination dogs and cats in Waco. First year, boom, really giant. And then during my presentation, I got stopped in my tracks. They stopped the presentation when I started talking about managed admission. And they said, that's your definition of success. That's not ours, because shelters are closing their doors and they're not helping people. And then we have more work and we have more pressure on us to help, and we don't have the resources. And I thought, holy cow, I really use this slide about our own microcosms all the time, but I was guilty of being trapped in my own microcosm as well. And that means we all have our own experiences and beliefs, everything that we've understood about our environment or perceive our environment. And that is unique to us. But just like that, everyone is unique. And so when we step into somebody else's microcosm, that's when the magic happens. And the other thing, just as an aside, to remember is our brains are designed to trigger and amplify the negative. So we have to always keep that in check. But nevertheless, what we've been thinking about is, let me move this down. I don't know if that is in your way, but the traditional and what I call flawed open admission system is we never had barriers for animals to come in, but boy, did we have a lot of barriers to get animals out of the shelter. And that's bad, because when we pile animals in the shelter, it's stressful for them. They get sick more quickly. It's stressful for us. There's overcrowding. We decrease our life-saving potential, but we also are wasting our resources that could be used more efficiently. And so here's the meaning of managed admission or coordinated intake. How can we help you in a different way and not just diverting, not closing the doors? And I think some shelters do that and say, nope, we can't take those pets, goodbye, period. But we want to make sure, if you can't actually provide the resource, maybe it's the spay neuter for that community cat, I'm going to link you to an organization who can. So the purpose and point was not to overburden another entity or create another problem within this system. It is really to capitalize first on those families who have pets already and help them keep their pets and care for them appropriately. So I want to apologize to all the rescue partners or people that may have been offended by this idea of managed admission. That has been perceived as, we're not helping, we're the shelter and we're closing the doors. We want to help network and provide resources throughout the community and throughout the system. So in that way, we can help more people and more pets. Now, I will tell you, Asheville Humane Society, shout out to them last year. They helped for the first time more animals outside of the shelter than they took into the shelter. And what a beautiful testament to how this can work. But we know now that there's studies that show up to 80% of people don't want to surrender. They just needed help. They just needed some sort of access to services. If you don't know about the open door veterinary clinic model, you're going to hear a lot of great things in the next couple of weeks. But that is a financially profitable veterinary clinic that also provides access to care. When I think about shelters that have been doing it right, I think about Brevard County, where the sheriff's office tried this and said, well, we don't know what we can do. We can't put more money into all this big giant team and budget to do this managed admission thing. And guess what? They didn't. They had the same intake person instead talk to people about what they needed and linking them to resources. And they decreased their owner surrender category by 80%. That means, and that was year one. And guess what they did? Year 1, 2, 3, 4, by 80%. So they're helping most of those people outside of the shelter. We weren't asking Good Samaritans to foster. I know way back when I was a public shelter director, it was required that fosters came back. I don't know what we were thinking, but in Jacksonville, they said, we need to do this a different way. Good Samaritan, can you help us and foster these pets? And look at what they did year one. I mean, their foster program increased exponentially. And of course, there's a live outcome part of this program as well, or this thought process. But we now know we have all these amazing virtual ways to help people place their pets if they can't keep them. And so what I want, especially, well, public and private shelters, but especially public shelters, is yes, to celebrate they're not coming in the shelter, but we have to also shift resources to still help those animals. And for you public shelter directors, this will be a challenge because we've always, our elected officials, our city and county managers have also always defined funding based on how many animals come into the shelter, right? So we have to get their brains wrapped around, we are helping animals, we're just doing it proactively, and perhaps that means helping those rescue groups, shifting of resources, but asking ourselves first and foremost, what do we have? Not being trapped in this mindset of scarcity. You've all heard about TNR and SNR with community cats over and over again. It is universally beneficial. To me, it has changed the landscape. You probably all know that twice as many shelter cats are still euthanized versus dogs, twice as many cats in shelters versus dogs every single year still. So this is a biggie. If you're not doing it, you need to do more research. But again, here's my famous slide examples that I love it. And it means that these cats, somebody once asked me, like, well, where did they go? I'm like, well, a lot of them weren't born, so they didn't go back and clog the shelter, right? But again, the green is live outcome and the blue is euthanasia. Great trajectory in Greenville. If you're still concerned or worried or don't think this can happen in your community, I'm here to tell you, yes, it can. It will happen and it can happen. Trust me, I appreciate our spay-neuter capacity. Our veterinary crisis, I know, is a big, huge challenge for so many of us right now. And hopefully that will resolve in the future. But again, taking those community cats healthy into the shelter is still not the answer. We want to get them to that spay-neuter trajectory. And this is a great webinar on the millioncatchallenge.org website if you're still concerned about that. But then when animals do come in the shelter, we've tried everything to try to place them outside the shelter. To me, this is probably, in my opinion, once they're in the shelter and we've exhausted all these possibilities, the live outcome piece is the crisis piece, and where a lot of especially nonprofit organizations struggle with the best of intention and are trapped by that fear. So remember, our human brains trigger to the negative. You know that this is a major crisis when we are a joke on mainstream sitcoms. And I have seen this several times. I want to see if I can show you this video. If not, I'll just tell you about it. Give me 1 second.
Yes, we're gonna take this one.
Can you guys hear that? Bobby, can you hear it?
Yes, we can.
Fast, we need to go through to see
Hold
it.
on 1 second, I'll start it over.
Yes, we're gonna take this one. There's a process we need to go through to see if you're a suitable cat guardian. Oh, really? Because I thought the process was I say, we'll take this one, and you say, thank God, because we have so many cats. No, we need to ensure these cats are going to good homes. That's why we need you to fill out this form, and then it'll be a site visit. We've just been through a very frustrating year trying to adopt a baby, so you'll forgive us if we're not really in the mood to jump into many hoops for a cat. Oh, why wouldn't they give you a baby? It's complicated. So we're cats. Are they?
So if that's not telling that we are mainstream, the butt of jokes, that it's easier to adopt a human baby, to me, that's a wake-up call, right? So what is the problem? And I think one of the issues is that we, on all our Facebook feeds and what we see in the shelter with enforcement cases is hard, and what rescues and as shelters, and we're seeing the cruelty, neglect, and abandonment. But the truth is that is not the norm. That is our microcosm, and we need to release that. Yes, there is those people that are guilty of that, but in general, they're not the ones coming to our shelters to adopt. So we don't want to treat them like they're suspects. Once animals come into the shelter, we want to welcome people. We want to have convenient hours. I know this has been a challenge too through COVID, but we have a lot of us capitalized on that. Social media and virtual matching and all of those things. How can we make it easy for people in a time when being together or being in person is not easy? So we should always make sure we're capitalizing on the virtual process. If you have not read Adopters Welcome, I will tell you, I've been in this business over 30 years. And in 2015, when I read Adopters Welcome, I was so humbled and heartbroken that I was guilty of all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was wrong about that. Oh my gosh, I was wrong about that. Wow, I didn't realize that. Please download it now. You can download and read, or just read it for free. You can get a hard copy. It's like $15 on the HSUS website. Allison's putting it in the chat. But absolutely every single organization who is doing adoptions must read this guideline, and it's a quick read, I promise you. But it's all about, again, releasing that fear and trusting that people want the best for their pets, and I'm going to be there if you need help. So what I've heard over and over the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, is, well, COVID, we got this happening because of COVID. Well, let me tell you something. Lucky Cat Adoptions, it doesn't even have a shelter. They have 6 cages, 6 stores, 1 cage each in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cameron Moore's group. Some of you know her from the University of Florida. This is her nonprofit. Cameron's challenge right now, guess what? Keeping her stores full. Her staff, she is a volunteer, and her friend also volunteers with her. It's just the 2 of them. In 2021, they had their biggest year, 1,100 cat adoptions. They had their best years in 2020 and 2021. In Kenton County, Kentucky, there was a cat cafe that opened. Kenton County Public Shelter can't keep it full. They're going around getting cats from other shelters who need help. And I can hear your brains right now, and you probably are putting this in the chat. Hey, can we send them cats? Because everybody asks us that. No, they can't take your cats. You have to think about these systems in a way that solves your own problems, because I promise you, you can do it too. We have to think about the whole system. We have to think about pet owners. We have to think about the rescues, the shelters, public, private. How convenient are we making it? Those stores, the PetSmart supermarket stores are open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Very little barriers. They fill out an application or the interest form, and they take the cat or kitten the same day. So it's very easy and accessible. They don't put a lot of barriers between the adopter and getting that pet home. So I want to thank you. I know I spoke fast, but I was trying to honor our 10-minute early completion. I am out of breath. I'm happy to entertain any questions if we have time, Bobby.
Dr. P, you were a magician walking through that thing. But here's the thing. So I want to put what you talk about into practice, because I ultimately, what I did based off of a recommendation from Mary, I made a decision for 166 other people without taking their thoughts or needs into consideration at all. And that is the exact opposite of what we should be doing in this space. So what I'm going to ask folks is, I know we said we'd be out of here in 5 minutes, but there are so many questions in the chat. And I know there's a lot of information that still needs to be shared. What do y'all think about going to the end of the call, right? This is not my call, it's your call. If y'all think we should keep this going and give Dr. P 15 more minutes, use a little reaction button at the bottom. So if you hover toward the bottom of your screen, like you're leaving the call, there's a little thing that says reactions. Use your hearts or your thumbs up. Tell us if we should keep this going. Look at that, Dr. P. The floor is yours. People want to keep hearing from you. I put together a little doc as you were speaking of some of the questions, but there weren't too many. So if you want to just keep it going. There was a lot of questions about data tracking, Dr. Brisano, about how folks are doing it to be able to understand just sort of how many pets they're keeping out of the shelter. Do you know anybody that's doing it really well?
So on cue, my dog is so perfect and fabulous. She's always quiet, and now she's having a conniption in the background. So I'm sorry.
Well, Mary said you're not supposed to apologize for that, so you're totally fine.
Well, before I get to that question and answer is, I also wanted to mention, if there's anybody on the call that feels uncomfortable with the notion or idea of managed intake, or you're trying to influence another shelter or help another shelter, I am just so jazzed and so proud of the National Animal Control Association. They recently came out with their position statement, and I know Allison had put it in the chat. Use that. It's there for you to use, help influence, whether it's your elected officials or another shelter or your stakeholders. Post it online, because we want you to understand, and we want everyone to understand, like, this is okay. You can have the confidence to do that. So I think that we have, as an industry, really dropped the ball about tracking information around safety net. And I cannot honestly tell you, every single shelter that I've helped says they're doing something in the community. Maybe it's vaccine clinics, maybe it's crisis foster care, whatever. And when I ask for data, they do not have it. And what I try to tell them is that is such an important story, and a very important story as we transition to community and foster-based sheltering. So I can tell you that a lot of communities are now starting. Memphis Animal Services has started recently. They're using Shelter Love points of care, which is an amazing aspect to that software. You can use points of care even if you don't use Shelter Love. So take advantage of that, but whatever. I don't care if you track it in an Excel sheet, but track it. It is an important part of your workload and part of the discussion and way you're going to influence your public elected officials and your donors, if you're a nonprofit, right, to tell that story. And I can tell you, I consider myself a philanthropist. And if you ask me, hey, would you rather help this shelter pet, or would you help that same dog so that he doesn't have to enter the shelter? I'm going to go for the proactive approach every single time. Tell this story, but you have to have data with it and use those testimonials. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Is there another question?
Thanks, Dr. P. I do actually want to get into sort of the communications conversation, because I think as people are going through this change management, The biggest pushback we see is often from folks that have been utilizing shelter services or advocacy that doesn't necessarily understand the conversation. But before that, there is something else that I wanted to mention personally. Is just the concept of implicit bias. I think when we talk about equity work or access to care work, I think we also need to self-reflect. I think that there are, a lot of conversations around racism or conversations about just access or understanding our communities. And that's always something that I want to be present of mind. So I know originally we were going to have the team from CARE presenting next week and taking over the Monday call. Unfortunately, there's a scheduling issue. So we are hoping to get them to come to a Friday call in the middle of February. So I will share those links and resources once they figure out an official date, but I'd highly encourage all of you to join that call next month as well. So back over to you, Dr. P, off of my soapbox.
Yeah, but I want to echo that sentiment, Bobby, and I feel like I am just this loving, open person. I don't consider myself prejudiced at all. And then I'm doing this reading or reading a doctor's welcome. I'm like, holy cow, that was judgmental of me. Holy cow, that was biased of me. So just be open to looking at that. And when, again, you think about that microcosm, I got to step in that other person's microcosm and see it from their perspective. I think that really helps you. Somebody asked in the chat if I think that the managed intake pushback is from the public, and I can say for sure, no. I have seen it only from the rescue or animal welfare advocate community. So I don't think it's a public thing at all. And I also feel there's a disconnect between those advocates and the understanding of a shelter. And I don't care if you are the Taj Mahal of shelters. Think about your own beloved pet. How long do you want them in the shelter? Would they be nervous? In the best of shelters, they're going to be nervous. There's going to be fear, anxiety, stress, right? Like, just by definition, to no offense to any of us who devoted our careers to shelters, but there seems to be a disconnect in people thinking, oh, it's better they're in the shelter. And I think we have told everybody, we're so fabulous and we do such a great job at the shelter. People think like, oh, they're going to go to hotel, it's like Hotel California though, but like, thinking it's the Park Place, but it's not a home by definition. And I think that's the disconnect when advocates don't understand it's always better for them to be in home, whether it's a foster home or a permanent home.
Thanks, Dr. P. Javier, I want to pull you back in this conversation because I know LA County actually received an award for sort of the implementation of the managed intake processes through sort of COVID and then continuing on after. Would you mind sharing just how that went for you, what change management looked like, and just your community's thoughts on this?
It was pretty hard. It was pretty hard from the staff. I mean, just because just the way Dr. Pisano said, we've trained everybody. The expectation is this is how we do it. We have to take these animals in, especially with cats. When we stop taking in cats, now we only take in if they're sick or injured, or if it's an owner and they seem like, they've been indoor. So, it was very hard to get the community to understand, they're bringing in cats, we tell them, no, you got to take it back. But we do provide services, like spay and neuter, things like that, to kind of help out with that. The same thing with owner animals, right? The community just comes in, oh, I got this dog, I don't want it anymore. And it's like, well, did you try finding a friend or a family member who can take it? Or why don't you want it? Oh, I can't afford the food. I'll tell you what, here's a couple bags of food. Let us know if you need more. You know what I mean? Our field officers, they do return to owner in the field. Instead of just, like before, taking them out there and, then just impounding everything, bringing everything back, we scan the animals, try and do return to field. Even on that note with the field officers, right? They have several calls. I don't have time to scan, go and see if the owner's home or this and that. But at the same time, the process, the time that you're kind of spending processing when you bring it in, doing the intake, exam, vaccinate, things like that, that's the time you're spending trying to find the home, especially if it's nearby where you're at, where you picked it up. So, the community has now adjusted to it. At first, it was very difficult. Just first, the staff alone was to get them going, to make them understand it, that it's not like this anymore. Because like I said, we've been trained, this is how it's gotta be, this is how it is, this is why we're here. Tax dollars pay our salary to do this. But once they got with the program and saw the difference, the change in the amount of animals we have here at the facility, the load that we can now manage to provide more time and effort with the animals that we have here in care, they've now, changed their view, and now it's not, getting the community to understand that, it's there, we got to work together. It's a community effort and our effort. We got to try and figure out a way to make this work for the animals that we have.
I have two things. One, for the folks that don't know how large of organization LA County is, would you mind sharing how many shelters you operate and then your pre-COVID intake numbers? I'm going to start with that really quick.
Pre-COVID, I don't know the numbers. I can just talk for my facility. We would average about 250 dogs, 250, 60 cats. That's during the spring and summer. Managed was, like maybe at over 100 cats just year round. But now, I mean, right now I have, I think something like 13 cats that we managed that after COVID. And then once we started managed intake, the dogs right now, we're probably at about 150, but that, I don't know what's going on in the community right now. It's gone up a little bit, but I mean, we've had help with our adoption partners and rescue. So, I mean, we're not too worried about it, but it's worked out. I mean, it's really made a difference here.
Yeah. And Allison Cardona, previously with LA County, now with UC Davis Shelter Correct Medicine, said over 70,000 animals a year pre-COVID. So if an organization of that size with leadership like Javier's can do it, all of you can do it.
Yes, we run seven facilities, 7 care centers throughout LA County.
All right, back over to you, Dr. P. Any other thoughts? And then we have just a couple minutes left.
Yes, my other thought that I know, again, that people are struggling with spay neuter. I was recently helping a shelter, a shelter dog could not be spayed or neutered for 4 months. That was the next veterinary, spay neuter opening. And so their plan A was to hold the dog in the shelter. So I just want to encourage everybody, foster to adopt is the norm. Nobody wants to send intact animals out, right? But we can't use holding them in the shelter as plan A. You also should know that almost 90% of Americans sterilize their pets. So it's not like you're going to give people pets and they're all going to be reproducing. Of course, there may be some, litters here and there, but that's preferred than holding animals in the shelter. And that's still holding some shelters back for fear that those animals are going to reproduce. And I feel like when we're facing this challenge of spay neuter capacity and a veterinary shortage, we got to go to plan B.
The last thing in closing, I want to pick on my friend Maddie Evans, because I think she said something incredibly critical about taking care of each other through this process. Change management is hard enough. It's another thing if we're not supporting and lifting each other up. So Mandy, you had mentioned something about how you communicate about other shelters in your community and what that looks like.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Pisano, excellent job. Love it. I think that we've had discussions on this call about all of us being attacked by people who don't understand, and that somehow we believe, just I think as humans, that in order for us to be great, we have to be compared to people who aren't as great as us. And really, it's our own merits. Each organization, each government contract, every single shelter in this country and in Canada, in the world, are allowed to operate as they choose to. They do not have to operate the way that we operate, and our goals and missions might be different. So we need to focus on ourselves. We need to highlight the great work we're doing, and in the process, do not disparage other people or other shelters to try to make yourself look better, even though the people around you might be frustrating as heck. That means that you just need to keep focusing on you, be positive, don't talk about others poorly, and do great work.
And that is why Mandy Evans is one of my best friends. So I'm going to just highlight one other thing. Eileen, I see your comments just about humane education. Eileen is also a friend of mine. Javier is also a friend of mine that works at LA County. I also have friends at LA City. So although I know that your goal is to try to motivate more people to do this, I want to get us in a room where we can work collaboratively and positively instead of discouraging things that aren't going on. So Eileen, we're going to all connect. I appreciate what you're doing. And Dr. P, I don't see Mary here. I know she had to go to the Cal Animal CEO Forum. So I'm going to toss it over to you to close us out for the day.
Awesome. And thanks, Maddie, for those sentiments. And I think one of the best things that we can do, and one thing I think that has made our assessment program so successful is, again, I didn't make it up. I just said, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this shelter who did it. They already struggled through it, like Xavier in LA. Like, I'm going to show you this shelter and introduce you to them who is just like you, same demographic, maybe same geographic area. And it really just helps to give people confidence when they know somebody else did it, and that's going to give us hope so we could do it too. So I love that. Thank you for this platform and the opportunity to speak about this, because it's been a tough transition for a lot of places and continues to be. And I think we just need to make sure we're messaging with sensitivity. And thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate you. Javier, crushed it, brother. Thank you so much. Any last closing words before we send everyone on their week?
Just have a great week. Stay safe. COVID is real.
COVID is real, folks. Catch y'all later. Happy Monday.
Take care.
Thank you.